What's up, grinders? Dan Gaspar, Mr. Tuttle05 here, and I'm going to run you through a quick tutorial for our new product, SimLabs. SimLabs has been out for a while now for some of our other sports, including NBA and PGA. And for those of you unfamiliar with it, it is basically just a tool to help you create well-constructed lineups in a quick and timely manner. And for MLB, I'm just going to run you through some of the some of the features that we have in SimLabs and how you could use this tool to enter lineups onto DraftKings or FanDuel. So first, you'll see the homepage here, or the home screen for MLB. This is a tool within itself. If you take a look, one of my favorite things to look at is the optimal team stacks here when dissecting a slate. The slate today is just a little four-gamer. As you can see, if you scroll to the top, this is where you'll select the site or site and slate you want to play on. So as you can see, we're DraftKings. It's just a little four-gamer here. And so you're not seeing too many teams here spit out for optimal team stacks. But on larger slates, it will populate with all the teams. It will tell you the optimal rate in the sims that those stacks hit. So you can see for this specific slate, Pittsburgh Pirates lead the way against Josiah Gray. And you'll see that some in the output as well. But not only for stacks, you can also see and use this for pitchers as well. So you can use it and look at it graph-wise. Otherwise, the other output here will tell you the optimal rate as well as the projected ownership, as you can see here. So you can use this in a tool in and of itself just to look at the output and make some decisions based on that. But if all you really want to do is retrieve lineups, that's completely okay too. And that is what this product is for. And so if you want to find some lineups using SimLabs, what you will do, you decide which contest fields you're playing. So large field, let's search for some lineups here in large field. So let's pretend we're going to enter some lineups for the main $15 GPP on DraftKings. So for that, I will click large field contest size. And for the results range, I'm going to crank it all the way up high. This is what I like to do when I'm personally using SimLabs myself. What the results range is going to do, it's just going to, if you have it clicked all the way high, it's going to give you a larger variation of lineups, whereas opposed to if you have it clicked very low, you're really not going to get a huge player pool. So high will kind of give you a bigger player pool, while the very low results range is going to focus into a smaller range of guys or players, I should say. I'm going to crank up the number of lineups to 150. You can build 150 at a time, and that's what we'll use here. I personally do not use any of these other features here. You can lock a team stack if you want to. So if you saw over here that Pittsburgh was the highest optimal white rate and you wanted to lock Pittsburgh stacks in, that is something you could do here as well. You could also exclude team stacks from the output. So if you saw Minnesota was the lowest optimal rate and you wanted to exclude Minnesota from your team stacks, that's something you could do here as well. You could also lock and exclude specific players. So this could be a little bit more useful if you wanted to exclude certain pitchers, or if there's a player that you see popping up in lineups a decent amount and you just don't want them in there. That's somewhere you could do this as well. But I'm going to keep it simple for now. These are my settings I'm going to go. But I am going to do and take a look at advanced real quick. I'll show you guys how I like to run this my first time. But this is, I will say, where the labs portion of the name comes in. This is kind of user specific. This is where you can play around and see what certain output you get by moving these sliders around. I personally like to crank simulation weight all the way up, projection weight low, ownership low, upside low, correlation low. Even in these settings, you should still get a large amount of stacks, which is obviously a concern when building MLB lineups. But if you don't think the output is providing you with enough stacks, this is where you could go in and crank the correlation as high as you want. So with these settings, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit get lineups. And we are building 150 real quick. So I will use this time here real quick to kind of explain the difference between Lineup HQ and SimLabs, because there is a little bit of confusion. This is Lineup HQ. For those of you that use Lineup HQ, you're very well familiar. Lineup HQ is simply an optimizer. It's essentially a calculator, and it's going to use projections to give you the optimal or highest calculated fantasy point lineup. What SimLabs is doing is it is retrieving lineups, already pre-made lineups from a pool, and these lineups have been graded against the other lineups in the pool, and they will rank higher depending on which weights you put. So simulation weights, so the lineups that we're seeing now that have been retrieved, you can see have a SimLabs rating of 97.56 is the highest one in this specific build, and that's based on the advanced settings that I set over there on the side. So these are already pre-made lineups. That's an important distinguish. We're retrieving lineups and we're looking at how these lineups fared in a simulation against the other pre-made lineups. So I think that's a common thing that people don't quite understand, and maybe piecing that together can help you understand exactly what we're getting from SimLabs here. And so oftentimes what I'll do when I'll build is I'll set a certain threshold with my SimLabs rating. So let's say I want to save any lineup here that has a SimLabs rating above 95. So then what I'll do is I'll go quickly and click through and save any lineups here that have a SimLabs rating of 95. Again, this is kind of personal preference. There's no exact threshold that you want to use here. Nothing's been proven to work better than anything else here. But the lower that you go, because I am sorting by SimLabs rating here, the lower I go within these 150 lineups, the lower they will rate. So that's important to know. And so oftentimes what I'll do when building and using SimLabs, I'll again saved every single lineup that rates 95 or higher. And then what I'll do is I'll get lineups again. So again, this is retrieving new lineups. Some of these lineups that it will retrieve will be ones that you have already saved, but it will also generate new ones or give you new ones that you have not previously retrieved. And what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll do a similar thing. I will save any lineups that rate better than 95. Again, the 95 threshold is just something I'm using for this tutorial. There's no concrete threshold that you should be using. Again, just know the lower that you scroll through these lineups, the worse the ratings of those lineups will be. So let's just go with what I have here. So oftentimes when I do this, I'll just keep doing this over and over until I get a desired amount or I hit a certain number that I want of saved lineups. If I navigate here to the saved lineup screen, you'll see I have 19. And what I'm going to do here is now that I have 19 lineups, I'm going to sync this to Lineup HQ to kind of further dissect these lineups. Because one of the comments or questions we get a lot is, can I use the SimLabs or can I use a different projection source other than RotoGrinders projections with SimLabs? You currently cannot do that in the SimLabs shell itself, but you can do that if you use Lineup HQ. So if you have a projection source in Lineup HQ like the BATX, which I am subscribed to here, you can see and you can select the BATX projections. Important thing to distinguish here is that you do want to select your projection source in Lineup HQ before you import those lineups from SimLabs. So when I have the BATX projections selected here, when I sync these lineups now into Lineup HQ, if I just go to Lineup HQ and do a refresh, we should get that synced then. And this will be now using the BATX projection source. So now you see the SimLabs were imported successfully, and they are now using the BATX projections. So now I can go through here. I can sort through these or look through these lineups and see how not only how they project per the BATX projections. So we can see this is the top projected lineup per BATX, whereas if I scroll all the way to the bottom, that would obviously be the lowest projected lineup via the BATX. Other things you can do a little bit more easily in Lineup HQ, you have a stack summary. There is a stack summary that you can use in SimLabs as well, but some people do prefer to use the Lineup HQ stack section. But if you wanted to go to the stack summary in SimLabs, you would just head on over to the exposures tab. Here you can see your exposures on the pitchers. You can see the teams that you have exposures to and the specific stack types as well. And so that is something you can do both in SimLabs and Lineup HQ. Again, some people prefer to do that in Lineup HQ because you get a better look at those specific stacks with the projection source of your choosing. One thing I will note, and one thing I personally like about SimLabs quite a bit, is that because I'm not sorting by projections over here, because I'm sorting by SimLabs rating, or you could sort by like a top 100 rating, whatever you choose to sort by here. Something that's nice that I like quite a bit from SimLabs, you'll get a pretty decent spread of teams being stacked here. SimLabs really helps avoid clumping. So what's going to happen though is if you import this into lineup HQ that like we did, and then you sort by projected points, what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of clumping towards the top. And so you'll see a majority of these lineups, because the Pirates project so well in the Bat X, you'll see the majority of your lineups towards the top are specifically Pirate stacks, whereas you may not get that clumping by simply using SimLabs. If you have any questions, like always, feel free to head to our Discord. We have a SimLabs channel there. You can ask specific questions. Feel free to at me if you have any questions in Discord. More than happy to help there. And we're always taking feedback. Again, this is a newer product, so if you see anything you would like to have addressed, any specific things, features you would like added, always feel free to give us that feedback as well. So that's going to do it for me today. Happy grinding and good luck in your contests.